Good afternoon to you all. I hope you can hear me well and also hear my guests well. Now, welcome to this Amsterdam International Water Week webinar about two innovative solutions with a unique business case. One about decentralized wastewater treatment from Bluecon, and the other about algae reduction from LG Sonic. We also have a guest from Portugal, if the technique is helping us. It's Joao Franseca from Ecofirm, and my name is Steven van Rossum. The agenda for today. We have first the welcome and introduction, as we have now. Then Jaap Stuiver from Bluecon, he will present his business case. And then also the Bluecon customer. And after, I would like to have a short Q&A from you all. And you can, in the site, you can ask your questions and we'll pick them up. Then we'll have Lisa Brandt from LG Sonic. And after, again, Q&A. And then I would like to end the presentation with a discussion. And where we have two central questions in mind. And I would like to have the next slide. What can we learn from the presented business cases? And how can business cases made more solid? And if you have any questions, remarks, or something else to add, please type your questions and we'll bring them over to the guests. Thank you very much. Now I would like to give the digital floor to Jaap from Bluecon. Jaap Stuiver.
Hello.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jaap Stuiver. I'm co-founder of Bluecon International, and first we'd like to start with a little explanation of what we are doing and what our innovative technology represents. So if we can start our small video. Okay, I think everybody saw our little video about our technology, and of course it's a little bit too short to explain our innovative technology. And what we notice all over the world is that we see that innovative technology doesn't come to the regions, but only stay in the big cities. And that's really disappointing because especially in the wastewater treatment business, only 14% of the wastewater is treated worldwide. And only a small percentage of the 14% can be reused. And that is our vision and mission of Bluecon. And also the reason why we started 5 years ago. We want to resolve the wastewater problems and to treat the wastewater decentral. So that we can provide the communities with clean water and also reusable water. And that is also very important for the economical sustainability of the region. And especially if you look to Spain and also to the southern countries in Europe, we see that there are a lot of small cities and a lot of small neighborhoods in the region, and they don't have any access to wastewater treatment plants. and especially there where young people are moving away from the small cities because there's no economical life. We want to create more economical sustainability by using treated water for agriculture or other industrial purposes. And our biggest issue is that we have to convince the local water boards or the local municipalities that our new technology has a 24/7 guarantee of good quality water. And that creates also the economical base for the future. And if you see also worldwide, and especially in Chile, but also in Portugal, you see that there's a big shortage of water. And I'm glad that our customer in Portugal, Mr. Joao Franseca, is present here at this conference, and he can explain in more detail what the importance is for Bluecon and the reuse of water in the region. So, and I think also that if you look to Spain and other southern part of countries, last week we were in an exhibition in the Smagua in Zaragoza, and we noticed that there are only 215 small wastewater treatment plants, and only 3 of them are reusing the water. So if you can imagine, if all those 215 wastewater treatment plants are reusing the water for good quality, what an economical impact that can be for the whole region. So, and of course, and that means I would like to buy Spanish vegetables or Spanish food being reused from Bluecon water. So I hope everybody can see and imagine what the result can be. So I would like to ask Mr. Joao if he can tell us about the Bluecon impacts in southern Portugal.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for the attention. We met Bluecon some 4 years ago, or 5 years ago, I guess, at Zaragoza, the Esmagua fair in Spain. And we started a partnership which became with some experiments in some specific locations in several wastewater companies, public wastewater companies in Portugal, which belong to the big public hub, which is Águas de Portugal. So we made a first in Portugal, near Algarve, a bit northern Algarve, in a region where climate changes are affecting a lot the hydraulic availabilities, and where local policies are very focused on reusing wastewaters. So we made there an experiment so that the local company could measure the performances of the Bluecon stations. Then we made the same experiment at another public company in the center of Portugal, where they have, well, this is a specific site. There is a religious sanctuary which is called Fatima. It's a Catholic sanctuary, and it has lots of variations in populations. When they have these big celebrations, they can have 500,000 people, and normally they have about 15,000. So of course they focus a big problem for treating these fluctuations in the production of wastewater, and at the same time they have these sites for the pilgrims to camp, which have some trees and some green, some grass, and they need to irrigate it. So this is also a great experience that we expect to have some future collaboration with these sites. And then we made the same experiment at the north of Portugal. Of course, that in the north of Portugal, there are no hydraulic needs. It rains a lot. But anyway, there is a commandments, so that we must be part of it. So we are making. We made these experiments. We made the measurements. Our measurements with potential. Basic price was the good results we had with COD, BOD, also nitrogen, efficiency of removals in a so short of time for the preparation of the station. Let's see, Bluecon team had about 1 to 2 days to prepare the machine for that specific wastewater, and it was the most remarkable result that we got. Of course, there are some always some measurement, some improvements we can do after. I would say 2 weeks of working of performance. Normally, when we use microbiological, for instance, activated sludge station, we need about 1 to 2 to 3 months. I would say that Bluecon technology needs at least 2 weeks, but we, with 1 day, maybe 2 days, we got all these results. It was remarkable, and the customers they bought it. Now we have in the first site where we made the experiment in Águas Puras do Alentejo, the first one I told you, located in northern Algarve. They have a problem, and they called us, and now we are making an offer and an offer process so they can solve this problem they have. And we hope that we can install this station in, I would say, next 2 to 3 months, because they are polluting and they are facing a bill, a fee. So they have a lot of urgency to solve this issue, and I hope that after this first installation, that people would come and see and ask the customer if they do rely the technology, and I think that they will look for other stations, and it also can improve the market in Spain, because this site is about about 100 kilometers far from Spanish border. So Spanish people, they are facing also a dramatic lack of hydraulic resources, and I'm sure that with this station over there, we can show to everyone, both in Portugal and the Spain, southern Spain, the capability of Bluecon stations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joao. You explained very good what difficulties we have to encounter because we have an innovative technology. And what you always see is that you have to convince people on the site. And you can only convince people if they see how the unit works and that they have a feeling about it, and and that they have to measure their own with their own lab results to meet to see if we can meet the requirements. And this is also one of the reasons we always go to the country. We have a demonstration unit, and we show the people there in 1 week what our technology is, so that they can see by themselves how robust it is, how easy to operate. Otherwise, it's very difficult to implement new technology, and especially if you are delivering not to the private sector but to the public sector, you always have to meet a tender procedure, and you have to write down the specifications, and you have to meet the local requirements. So this is our marketing strategy, that we always go to the country, we do a demonstration so that everybody can see and feel and smell what they want. And if they are convinced after that, then we go with a local distributor, we are going to enter the market. And also Ecofirma of Mr. Joao is a very good example how we are entering the market there. And you see also that Spain is a little bit difficult, because I thought always that Spain is one country, but it seems to, what I noticed when we were there, that Spain is our 14 different regions belonging to one country. So you have, if you want to sell in the northern part or sell in the southern part, it's a big issue to do that.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
We have a question from Violetta from Romania. Hello, Mr. Stuiver. Romania has a plan and the money to provide 100,000 households with wastewater treatment facilities until 2026. Any plans for Bluecon to be important development?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you. One of our main markets is Romania. We are selling and implementing at this moment in Transylvania already 8 units in Borja and Olszewski, Hida, and in the coming years we noticed that the EU has funded the Romanian government by 14 billion euro. So, and a lot is coming through the wastewater treatment plant. So now we are have almost 50 to 100 units entering the feasibility stage, so that the funds are being allocated, so that the implementation can be done till 2026. So Romania is a very important country, but that happens also in Greece and also in Serbia. You see that due to the fines the European Union gives to the countries, a lot of local authorities are realizing that they have to do something about the treatment of wastewater. And now they're becoming aware they cannot discharge it without any treatment. And people are starting to realize that you have to do something. Yeah.
And can you tell me what's specific, because I think you're in a kind of niche market, and what's specific about your solution?
Our solution, most of the traditional wastewater treatment plants are based on biological technology. And bacteria have to react on the basis of there is water, there is no water. They are, if it's too cold, they don't function. If it's too warm, they don't function. Our technology is based on pure physical chemical technology, so it works 24/7. And it's very easy to operate. It comes in a 40-foot sea container, standardized sea container. And especially for small villages, you don't have to invest in large infrastructure for sewage plants. And that's why a lot of people, and especially in areas where wastewater treatment plants are not common, this is so interesting.
And do you have a specific kind of customers, or is it a broad variety?
It's a broad variety, but mostly these are cities from 500 to 5,000 people. And you see that all over Europe, these are also the cities which causes the most problem of not charging or not discharging of polluted wastewater.
Yeah, yeah. We have a question from Caroline Grio. I hope you pronounce your name well, Caroline. Is there any standard initial approach to start a partnership for the exchange of water treatment technology in other countries? Yeah.
Yeah. Being part of the Dutch-Netherlands water partnership, we always work very close together with RVO and the MWP to enter a new market. Also from a trade mission or an exhibition. Last week we were as a Dutch community on a Dutch pavilion booth in Rimini at the Ecomondo exhibition. And what we see there, that a lot of new technologies from Dutch companies go to the exhibition together, and then we can meet local people who are interested in different kind of technologies. And that is always the first way to enter a new country or a new region. And after that we come into discussion and we want to realize and want to know what the local requirements are and what the local procedures are. And that's why we always want to work together with those local people and local entrepreneurs.
You mentioned Spain, Portugal, Romania. I can also imagine that we have a much wider I won't say problem, but issue with wastewater, which is being discharged without being treated. There are also big programs who are in to also reduce untreated wastewater, for example, in developing countries. Is that also a solution where is Bluecon also a solution for for this context?
Yeah, for example, now at this moment our demonstration units is on the boat to Chile. I've been to Chile 2 years ago.
I'm not sure if Chile is a developing country, but
but if you call the developing country Africa, or yeah, it can be also there, but it's always an issue of money also, because if you come from a low end and you have to introduce a high technology, then it can be very expensive. And mostly those projects are being funded by NGOs or other World Bank or something like that. Another example, I don't know if you can call that in developing countries, India. India, we've been there talking with the government of Tamil Nadu. And the Tamil Nadu is very interested in our technology because there is, in the dry period, there is a very big shortage of water, and water is expensive over there. So they want to reuse their water from sewage not only to prevent the rivers from becoming dirty, but also it saves them a lot of money.
Yeah. Thank you. I have another question from Lesego Lekubu. How do you dispose of the sludge from the treatment works?
Good question, because sludge is always a big issue. And why is that an issue? Because if you see a sludge in big cities, these are mostly contaminated with a lot of metals or other heavy pollutants. If you look and you analyze the sludge from little villages, these are mostly organic material. And what we normally advise is that we dewater the sludge and use it as a biological fertilizer in the area. Of course, that must be allowed by the local law, or you can compost it, but that's the most economical and simple solution.
I hope our connection is stable, because I don't see us move on the screen. Okay, sorry for this short interruption. One last question before we go on to Lisa from LG Sonic. This question from Harold Broms. Do you see a relevant euro value being given to reuse water for irrigation that helps the business case for implementation of installations?
What we notice that all over the world, and that the prices are a little different, the price of water varies between, say, €1 and €2. If you look at the treatment costs of the reuse of water, it's far less than €1. So why not reuse water? Because it's economical, it's cheaper, it's better, and you save a lot of protection of groundwater. The desalination is also a big issue of groundwater. So if you reuse the water, it's not only cheaper, but also better for environment and sustainability. I hope I answered these questions for your customers, but if they want to have some contact, they can always ask us, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I would like to go on to Lisa with your LG Sonic solutions.
Yeah. So maybe we can start one slide further. My name is Lisa Brent. I'm the CTO and co-founder from LG Sonic. If you can go to the next slide. And more than 10 years ago, our company, we set out to find a solution for algae blooms. And back in that time, there really wasn't a lot of attention spent on algae blooms. It was more a nuisance, like you couldn't swim maybe for a couple of days in the water, or water treatment plants were finding problems with their operations, but there was not a lot of focus about it. But we already had that vision that the way that we were dealing with our lakes and our reservoirs and our natural resources, it should be better because water is becoming a scarcity. So what we decided by then is to develop an environmentally friendly solution that would deal with this problem. Next slide, please. And we are developing this for many different markets, the drinking water industry as an example, but we are also working, for example, for the mining industry, energy, recreational water, all kinds of water industries. Basically everywhere where water is stored in a reservoir or has a large surface, we are doing our work. And specifically when we go to the drinking water industry, we see that the reservoir itself making of water treatment. I think there's a problem with the sound.
No, it works. It's okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me, we have some. We seem to have some. Hope everything is okay now. The internet connection was a little bit narrow. Sorry.
continue, and I'll try to speak up a little. So what we would see is that the drinking water reservoir, the raw water reservoir, it was not being taken as part of the treatment solution. So a water treatment plant would design their water treatment based on whatever water intake they could have, and usually on worst case scenarios. While we already had that vision that if you would take your raw water reservoir, for example, as part of your treatment, you could do so much better also in the way that you treat your water, that you operate your treatment plant, and manner. And one of the solutions that we have for this is the MPC buoy. Maybe you can just click through to the explanations that will pop up around the slides. And the MPC buoy is a system that uses ultrasound to algae. And what's kind of special about the system is that it starts with monitoring the water quality. So when we designed our solution, we already knew that we wanted to have a technology that was based on what the problem in the reservoir was, and not just based on adding a solution regardless of the water quality. So we started with monitoring the water quality, and this information is being uploaded real time to an online server. One more click, please. And this information on the server, there are several algorithms that decide are the algae growing, what type of algae are present in the water, in what growth stage are they. And based on that, the unit adapts its treatment based on the specific type of algae autonomously. One more click, please. And again, it uses ultrasound. Next slide. And ultrasound, there are of course many different methods to use ultrasound, but the ultrasound that we use is of relatively low power, which means we don't generate cavitation or lyse algae cells or use any of the technology that is used, for example, to sterilize surgical equipment with, etc. But we use a much lower ultrasonic signal from different frequencies. And different frequencies we adapt based on the type of algae present in the water. Next slide, please. And what happens to the algae when we treat them with ultrasound is normally algae, they use their buoyancy to go all the way up to the water surface and take up sunlight, because similar to plants, they need sunlight to grow. And with ultrasound, we affect their buoyancy. And because of that, they can't reach this bloom stage. And what is important about that is that when you would be using ultrasound, or when you would be using chemicals or any other method, then you would be breaking the algae cell. It would release its organics, its toxins, and all the components that you actually don't want in the treatment plant into the water. And our technology doesn't do that. It just restricts the growth of the algae. I think that was next slide.
Thank you, Lisa, very much. There was a little bit confusion here because the internet connection was not very stable. I think everyone is at the AIWW at this moment on this webinar. Is the system you have, is it like a standalone system, or is it part of a bigger integral system? Ecosystem.
The system we have, you can use it as a standalone system. So it's implemented in the reservoir, it operates from there, it uses its own software and its own server. But what we see more and more is that because it generates also so much water quality data, we see that we get more and more involved also in the treatment process and in the decision making of the users that we have.
Yeah, and is that the customers you have or you aim for? Do they need to be very well managed system, or can it also be used in a situation where there's some more space?
We operate our systems everywhere. So, for example, our guys know very well what they want from their treatment and what water quality they are taking in, but we also have clients, for example, in the Dominican Republic that have a lake and they need to treat blooms, they can't treat that water, and we can definitely supply a good solution there as well, especially because all the decision making, all the troubleshooting, everything is done through that online software. So we can do a lot for our clients as well, just from our online platform.
Yeah, thank you very much. We have a question from Vasiliki Karagiorgi. Has it been implemented in any UK water companies?
Yeah, it has. We have projects with, among other, Southeast Water, Southwest Water, Anglian Water. So we see in the UK that there are a lot of drinking water companies are using reservoirs or raw water as a water source. And by using that in advance of their treatment plant, they can reduce the chemical use in the treatment plant itself because they take less organics. They can predict better the water quality, and they'll have a more stable water quality as well as an inflow in their treatment plant.
And this webinar is about business cases. Can you tell something about the added value of the system for a business case?
Of course, yeah. So it depends, of course, a little bit on the situation, because if you have a reservoir that is completely filled with algae, your treatment plant can't operate. So you have filters that get clogged, you have taste and odor problems, possibility that you have toxicity, and you just need to solve that problem. And getting good water quality is your first target. Yes, but we also see some of our clients that have good water quality, but they're treating it with chemicals, and those clients can stop their algaecide use in the reservoir. And we see, for example, that they have return of investment on our solutions within 2 years just because they can stop their chemical treatments.
Oh, that sounds very positive. And if a customer has a question, you can help them with those calculations.
Of course, yes. Yeah, and we can also, we have a lot of experience with our systems, with the installations of our systems in many different water bodies, water quality. So in general, we'll be able to give a good idea of what we can do for potential new clients and how we can make their water quality and their operations better.
Yeah, and make it positive business.
At least I can ask you a question. We always have to convince our clients as water boards. How do you see that in your situation? Do you have to give a demonstration for a few months or something like that?
Well, yeah, I definitely recognize what you were saying, that especially what you also said about Spain. You think if you have one project in Spain, then you can use that as a reference. And that is something that will always keep coming back to you. Even if you have in the same city a project, they'll say, yeah, but this water is a little bit different quality. So how can, so that keeps coming back, and we also see that. We can offer different solutions for that to our clients, but we also have already a lot of good potential cases. For example, when we started with the Dominican Republic project, they flew themselves to our client in Colombia to check the sites there and ask them for their experiences. And then, based on that, they could make a positive decision.
That's very strange for us always. Everybody thinks all over the world that their water is special.
Yes.
But for us, it's always the same.
Yeah. But there are always different dynamics as well. We also see that with our monitoring, and that's also, I think, very nice about our system, is that once we start implementing it and we start monitoring for a year, you learn so much about the reservoir and how the ecosystem works and why things happen the way they happen and what influences the water quality. And that is, of course, always different, but you know what your system can do and you know what you can mean for your customer, and that, of course, you can use it from the different projects as well.
May I, because we have a lot of questions on the screen,
Sure.
To start with Lesogo again. What are the O&M, operation and maintenance requirements of the LG Sonic system?
So the system has very little maintenance and operations requirements. It works completely standalone, and it cleans itself automatically, and everything, all the technical status are also being sent to our online software. So we do recommend to go to the buoys maybe 1 or 2 months, depending on the water quality, to check on the system, and then the water quality sensors are calibrated annually.
Then another question also from Sogo is also its useful life. I think it's about the period you write it off or it works.
Yeah. So we designed it for a 10-year use, and of course there are components that you replace in this time, but in general it's been designed for 10 years use.
And it looks like the Sogo is from the Netherlands, because there's a question about costs.
So it depends a lot on the size of the reservoir. And again, what we see is that we can offer quite fast return of investments for our clients, especially when they are using chemicals. And I think for the specific cost, it's always better to get in touch with us so we can calculate it for the reservoir and for the size and the problems that you have.
And do we see from Facility, again a question, do we see a reduction in treating time?
So I think what is meant with that question is treating time in the treatment plant. I don't think you see a reduction in the time there, but we see a reduction in the chemicals used. We see that filters can operate on a longer period of time without backwashing or cleaning. So these are more the operational benefits that you'll have in the treatment plant from installing the systems.
It will be cheap.
It will be cheaper.
Yes.
And if your technology wasn't there, because before it wasn't there, what was the alternative, and is there an alternative? I also would like to question later to Jaap.
So what we saw before we started our work is that most of those reservoirs were using algicides and specifically very often copper sulfates. And that's actually quite bad, because some of the reservoirs we are treating have been treated with copper sulfate for sometimes even 100 years. And what happened, these reservoirs, there's no life in there anymore. The copper sulfate has changed the growth of benthic plants. The bacteria in the sediments have completely changed. So everything, the entire ecosystem in these reservoirs, they start malfunctioning because of this. And they also become more dependent on copper sulfate, because algae are always the first thing to recover, So the plants, they don't grow back as fast, the bacteria don't come back as fast, but the algae will grow back within 3 months. So you start dosing a little bit of copper sulfate and using a lot to still keep all those algae in control.
If you look at our situation, there are in fact 2 cases. One is the case that there has never been a wastewater treatment plant, especially in small villages up to 3,000 people. So they discharge polluted water into the river or into the lake, and you see a lot of nitrification over there, a lot of pollution. And that also affects water resources, for example, drinking water. Or there is a small biological treatment plant, and what you always see, what we learned all over the world, that small biological treatment plants, you have to maintain the same time and the same amount of hours as a big biological treatment plant. And that's not possible because it's a small village and only the mayor or the farmer is appointed to do this, and we have only 1 hour a day, and that will not work. So after 2 years, 90%, 95% of the biological small treatment plants are not functioning anymore. So they are again discharging polluted water in the river. And that's why the European Union put out big fines for Greece and Romania in the last year, because they want to achieve sustainable water. And that's the reason why it's so important to do that. And you see, there are 2 motives. It's law-driven, or it is drought-driven. In countries where there's a lot of drought, there is an economical purpose to reuse the water. So it's very simple. Yeah. And they don't want, if you look at designing a traditional plant, it takes 1 to 2 years, and to build, it takes a long time. And if you have an equipment which you can install directly and it works within 2 days, 3 days, everybody is very positive about it.
Yeah, it sounds good. I have another question about the algae treatment you do. I can imagine that, and I know a case where there was a lake and there were also a lot of fish, but the fish were poisoned because of the algae. I can imagine that in a lot of situations this is quite common.
Yes.
Can you say something about it?
Well, I think that in general, until recently, people weren't very aware of the effect and the impact that algae may have on the people living around the lake and on the fish indeed and on the irrigation of the plants. But more and more is becoming known now about those specific the specific impacts of algae, and it's more severe than you think. That the fish, it's still quite obvious that you think, well, this fish has been swimming in toxic water, perhaps you shouldn't eat it. But there are also many diseases that are associated with algae blooms, like Alzheimer's disease, ALS. They are directly associated with people living around lakes that have algae blooms. Even if you don't get in contact with the water, like you don't swim in it or you don't drink it, you don't eat the fish from that lake, still the toxins of the algae can become aerosol, people can breathe them in, and they'll get all kinds of respiratory issues from the algal toxins. And that is definitely something that more awareness also needs to be created around that topic, because people don't know, and if people don't know, they are not going to take action either.
I can imagine. Is there? It's a question to both of you. Is there an always one way, or is there a general reason why companies or municipalities or your customers decide for your product?
Yeah. I think in general it must be cost effective. That's one main part, and it must meet the requirements. Those are the two parts. It must be cost effective.
And the question about operation and maintenance?
This also must be cost effective. If it's more expensive than traditional, people don't want it. It's not so simple to do.
Yeah, I have kind of the same experience. While we have a very clear vision of doing something that's good for the environment and indeed recovering our fresh water, most of the decisions for making around purchasing or installing our solutions are still economically driven. Yeah.
So if you want to implement innovations or innovative technology in any sector, I think it must be the business case must be economical. And it must be proven that it's better, economical, sustainable, and that's very difficult. So, and especially if you go to the public sector, they are sometimes more conservative because they have to meet the local situation and local wishes, and they also invest in public money, and public money is, of course, from us all. So they want to be absolutely sure that new technology is correctly. And that's why it takes so much time.
And how do you prove that your technology meets standards? Does it meet the standard?
For us, it's very simple: demonstration. You go with your demonstration units to the local place and let it stay there for 1 week. That was Mr. Joao also said. We have been there for a couple of weeks, and we let the people show this is what we do, and that's fine. And then they are convinced. And then it takes some time, of course, to do. But if people has a need, because there is a shortage of water, there is a big pollution, the same as Lisa said, if the lakes are full of algae and they need drinking water, then they react. So, but I think the most important thing is that cost is still very important and sustainable. Sometimes comes in the second step.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
yeah. And for you? The reason to choose for the technology?
Well, we see that a lot of our clients either want to have a better operation and indeed go for the better return of investments, or sometimes they are not allowed to use chemicals anymore, or they don't want to use chemicals anymore. Other of our clients, they just have a very, very big problem and they need to make a decision. There are also, when you speak about treating a lake of 5 square kilometers or 6 or 7 square kilometers, there's not a lot you can still do if you have an algae bloom there. So then there are not a lot of choices for our clients to make, and I think that's that definitely speeds up the process. But in general, it's always an economic decision.
Thank you. I have a question for the people on the other side, the audience. Do you have any ideas, or do you have specific criteria yourself for a business case where it needs to apply, or which is relevant for you? Is it only the money, or is it also legislation, or maybe completely different reason to decide for a certain technique? So I would like very much to hear from you, and maybe you will also have a question for the audience, Lisa or Jaap.
Yeah, for us it's always very difficult to find the correct route to the decision makers in a new region or country, because so many people are involved in water, and our question is always, who is the end responsible? Who makes the decision and accepts the new innovative technology? And that's always difficult to find. We always try to go up as high as possible, but we cannot meet every minister of water in every country. That's almost not done. So
it's also not always the solution, because in the end the operator needs to be using your technology, endorsing your technology, and work with it.
And that's why we always work very close together with the Dutch government, and we like that because the Dutch government and the embassies, they know a lot of people in the region and they can connect us very easily. So that's why we always go on trade missions and exhibitions to most of the countries.
Yeah, I could imagine. Alisa, for you, how does it work for you?
Yeah, I think it depends a bit, but it is what we usually see is that we try to build a good understanding through an entire organization. As I also mentioned, like in the end, the operator needs to use your technology. And I have, for example, a case where we came through. It was with one of our clients in the US, and we were one of their innovation partners. And through their head office, they said, this is a good plan to install our technology. And we installed our technology there, and it was operating fine. And then after 9 months came the first complaints. We didn't understand why. And in the end, it was nobody on site had chosen to move from chemicals. And if you don't build that understanding on site with your clients and with the people that use it, they'll still rather want to use whatever they were using in the last 10 or 30 years. So in the end, you have to build that understanding, build up that relation throughout the organization to make sure that your technology is accepted through in the company itself.
And also that's why our relationship with our distributors are so very important, because they know exactly what's happening from the Netherlands. You cannot deal daily or directly with what the problems of the operators are. So for us, our distributors are the advanced posts, and they have to look and to learn what the biggest problem is. And they have to, we always try to advise not only sell the product, but also give them a long service and maintenance contract, for example, 5 or 10 years, so that you keep in contact with your customer and see what's happening on a daily basis. And that's the reason For example, that Joao is entering the market over there because I cannot speak Portuguese. Dutch is for a lot of people very difficult, but that's the reason.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we have come to an end because I see it's already time or almost time here in The Hague. We are in The Hague. And I would like to thank you very much for attending this meeting. I would like, Lisa, thank you very much for being here. Jaap, thank you very much. And I think we meet up somewhere this week, maybe in Amsterdam at the fiscal part of the Amsterdam International Water Week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.